All right, here we are again. First Alarm Family First, episode 12. I'm Jen Herrera. Carolyn Acosta is here too, and Carolyn, another special guest today.
Yes, we are very happy to have Lieutenant Andrew Masters from Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue joining us today. Lieutenant Masters is a leading advocate for mental wellness in the first responder community and is also a part of the IAFF Local 765 peer support team. He travels across the country providing support for men and women who dedicate their lives to saving others. During this whole preparation for this podcast, I was going on social media last night and I came across one of your posts that you posted a couple days after my husband passed. And I didn't know this, but you were with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue for 3 days showing peer support over there, supporting our men and women over there after my husband's loss. So I just want to thank you for doing that. It was just I didn't expect to see that when I'm scrolling down social media. And I saw that. I was like, wow. So it just shows that you do a lot for us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to become such a mental wellness advocate?
It's first of all, thank you for having me. This is, I think, one of the best ways to get just word out there. That my main goal of all of this is just to kind of reach maybe that one person that's not sure and everything. That if they see that it's okay for someone to share their story and that someone kind of comes through the other side, that it's okay. And it's okay to reach out for help and everything. And there's different resources out there that something that works for me may not work for you. And we want to provide all those resources, get the word out there for them. What kind of got me started in the mental wellness side was just my struggles that I went through over, I want to say, the past 10, 15 years of being in the fire service, that not just were related to job on the job stuff, but also at home stuff. So, got involved with peer support, got involved with the CISM stuff, and just kind of took off from there. It was just, I guess I found my little calling and everything, and I look at it that the sufferings that I went through are a blessing because I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Andrew, I'm not sure how much you are comfortable sharing, but I am curious. So many people who we have spoken with, both on camera and off camera, have touched on what you just said, that there was a lot going on at home too. Having lived with a firefighter and the daughter of a firefighter, I know the job itself brings a lot of stress to any sort of relationship. Do you think the job contributed to the relationship stress, or did the relationship stress contribute to the job stress? Can you break it down that way? I don't know.
I think there's a it's almost like a 50-50 split. I think there's an opportunity to where um, you know, if you have a bad shift per se, or just a rough night, like is coming home and you're now switching hat roles from that first responder mode to, oh, now I've got to switch to the spouse role, to the father mother role, or whatever role that you're coming home to. And it all depends. Do we have that time to switch over to that? What do we do to decompress on that car ride home? A lot of times, a lot of us use that ride home from any job to just kind of decompress, listen to music, listen to podcasts, whatever. But I also think it comes the other way, because one of the classes that I teach, we talk to clinicians about when something goes wrong at home, we always seem to be at the firehouse for that. And there's nothing that I can do about it. Like the water heater is going to break, the toilet's going to back up. It always happens when we're on shift and we're kind of handcuffed on that. We really can't do anything. So I kind of think it does go back and forth to on both sides. And also, it goes back to the fourth that if maybe you're just having those struggles in your relationship, they don't go away just because we go to work. When we come home from it, may be a 24-hour kind of grace period away from there. But when we come through the door, everything starts just like it was when we left it.
Right. No, I completely understand from what you're saying now. I mean, I lived it with Alex for 17 years, but not really, I guess, putting two and two together that his job was so stressful already and then coming home to just like the everyday, life stress. I'm glad that you're doing that. You're working with clinicians to kind of let them know too, this is what we deal with. And this is what, this is what life as a first responder is. And I feel like too, as spouses, we also need to understand that a little better. I think we marry them, but we don't really understand what their day is.
I think one of the things that's helping is a lot of departments are starting to reach out, and we do a family day when they're from day one in the recruit class. We bring in the families and we kind of give them a basic understanding of what now your firefighter is going to go through over the next 20 plus years and what resources are available. And not saying everyone's going to need these resources, but they're there, and there are going to be changes when your firefighter comes home. And I simply ask them a question of, and I asked this to one of my captains of, does your wife really know when you come home and you say, hey, we run 6 calls after midnight, what that actually means? And he's like, yeah, it means I'm tired. I go, but does it actually mean that she understands that from the time we were dispatched to the time we got back laying down in bed, that call was technically an hour? So that's 6 of those that we did, that we were technically up from midnight to 6 a.m. And then we're up at 6:37 to get the station ready to go home and to get back into that spouse role now. And he's like, not sure if I understood it that way, but now we do.
No, it's true. I remember, and listen, I'm not proud of it, and I'll admit it now and go, oh my gosh, Jen. My husband, I remember we used to try to one up each other because early on in our relationship and in our marriage, especially, then you introduce kids in the mix. He'd be like, I had 7 calls after midnight. And I'm like, I was up at 2:45 in the morning getting ready to go to work and then had to feed a baby beforehand. It was literally like a one up, who's more tired. And I think about that now, especially Carolyn, based on the conversations that you and I have. Sure, I was waking up at 2:45 in the morning, but I wasn't seeing anything like he was seeing.
No, at all. I mean, I'm very guilty of that as well. I didn't even think twice. I mean, him being on the helicopter, and yes, he was up, but I figured, you know what? He's used to this. And, we have all these other things that we need to handle at home, not thinking twice of like, wow, he's been through a lot.
Was there, Andrew, can you pinpoint, and we know it's an accumulation, right? You've admitted it. We've talked about it with first responders, with clinicians. It's an accumulation of things, whether from childhood, right? Personal things, marriage, relationship, stress, blah, 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 work. Was there a breaking point for you?
I've had 2 breaking points pretty much over. And if you don't mind, I'll share a little bit of my story and everything. I actually was hired by a smaller fire department back in 2008, which was with the city of Coral Gables. I worked there for about 5 years. I was always a Broward guy and had been approached by a couple officers that I was good friends with down there. And they had kind of seen that I was one of those go-getters, wanted to run all the calls and everything like that. And I also wanted to get involved with hazmat, TRT, dive rescue, do all the specialty classes. And I looked at moving to a bigger department, which I ended up getting hired with the city of Fort Lauderdale in 2012. And as you know, once you move departments, you start from the bottom again. You're the rookie again. Was on probation, was the class leader for that one. Everything was going great on shift, was passing all my tests and everything. And then come take one of the written tests. I actually failed the written test. And a couple months after that, maybe 2 or 3 months after that, been on about 9-10 months with the department now. It was 3 days after Christmas. They placed me on administrative leave, and I was actually fired for failing that test. There was, I think, 10 out of the 15 of us failed this test, but I was the only one that actually never got a retake or was actually fired for that test. So after that, I spent the next 3 years kind of applying for every department from like the Jacksonville area down to the Keys. And I had people that wanted to back me and writing letters for me and making phone calls like, hey, this is a good guy, we need to hire this guy. I was scoring top on multiple tests because I'm coming in with almost 6 years experience taking entry level tests and everything. And I was taking them serious, and it just got to the point to where it became a lot because you'd get so close and then you would get told no, you get told no, you get told no. Um, I had one captain that was right there with me every week, inviting me to the firehouse, eating with, I could eat with the crew, train with them if I wanted to, just to keep my skills up. And it got to a point to where just I didn't want to be a burden for anyone, and it became hard on me. And I did start drinking a little bit more than I used to. And there was, I'll just say this, there was a plan on the table for suicide. It was an option for me. There was a plan on the table. Um, Once after kind of that passed, I was hired by the Florida Panthers. I worked part time for them, doing community relations stuff, outreach stuff for them. And I kind of think that gave me my little bit of purpose back. We were doing a lot of charity work, working with the Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, a lot of stuff about, just school trips, getting hockey into schools and everything. And then back in 2015, I was actually rehired by Fort Lauderdale again, but I started from the bottom again, but I didn't care. I was like, I got a job, let's do this. The administration had changed, and a lot of people had felt that me being let go was not the right choice that was made those years ago, and went through all that. Got through probation, which was awesome. And as soon as I got off of probation is when I started getting into the mental wellness stuff because of my struggles. I felt I wasn't very, very well versed in what was going on. Working with the Panthers, I met a lot of close friends that I still have today. And I've talked to them about this, and I think working with them and the friends that I made there stopped me from doing something, I'll say, stupid. Hockey is kind of my outlet. I love going to the games now and everything. I was lucky enough to be at game 7 just recently and watch them win the cup. That's like, couldn't ask for more for that. And um, fast forward from 2015, after getting off of probation and everything, I kind of had a second breakdown, but I think I was able to control it because I had knowledge and resources of what was available out there. I was well jumped into the mental wellness stuff. I was the CISM coordinator for all of Broward County. So anything bad that happened in Broward County, my phone was going off for looking for resources and everything. I worked hand in hand with the peer coordinator, um, who she's an amazing person, Candace. She works for Coral Springs. She is a absolutely amazing person. And we would work hand in hand with running deployments for Broward County, for anywhere else that needed it. And then I kind of had my 3 incidents that happened within maybe like just about a month time. A week before Surfside happened, the building collapse, we got a phone call that my cousin's kid, who's actually my nephew, we refer to him as my nephew, he lost his battle with an inoperable brain tumor a week before Surfside happened. And then a week later, I was down in Surfside, deployed for Surfside, helping out down there. And then I'd say probably about 3 or 4 weeks after all that, I was dealing with a breakup from a relationship. So I had kind of gone off the deep end again. Not as bad as before, but I kind of had the resources out there and kind of the knowledge of, and but I still had rumors and people coming up to me at work saying that I had changed, my attitude had changed, that I was being mean to people and everything. And I never really realized it. And it just took one call of me going on a call, and a captain said, "Hey, this girl wants to go to the hospital. She's hungover and everything." And I looked at him and I pretty much said, "I don't see how that's my problem." And he dragged me outside and he's like, "I heard the rumors. I didn't think they were true. You need to check yourself." And that night I ended up just kind of, I came off a shift that night. It was a 12-hour shift. I was working an overtime shift. And I kind of just hung out on the beach for a little bit, kind of like putting everything together, and then something clicked, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm the one that needs help now. I'm the one that needs this. And the next morning, my first phone call was to Candace, who is like one of my best friends and everything, like I said. And just simple phone call, hey Candace, and just like, hey, I need help. And she's like, all right, what do you got? And I'm like, no, I need help. And she started tearing up on the other end. And she's like, you don't know how long we've been waiting for this phone call with everything that you've been dealing with. And I'm like, well, why didn't you say something? And she's like, because the help wouldn't come unless you were ready for it. We need you to be ready for it. And I'm like, okay. So my next phone call was to a gentleman named Sean, who is a mental wellness clinician who has been through a lot of the classes and specifically works for first responders. He's been through what we call the cultural competency class that we teach for clinicians. And I said the same thing to him. Hey, Sean, kind of need some help. And he's like, all right, what's up? What do you need? And I'm like, no, I need help. And he just went silent. And he's like, oh, this is the phone call that we've been waiting for. And I'm like, how does everyone know about this phone call but me? And we talked for about 5 minutes, and he said if I wasn't in his office the next morning, he was coming to get me at my house, and then started going to therapy. And
Andrew, I want to interrupt you there because that's what I keep thinking. And I think we're all guilty of it.
Right.
We know that people may need help. We see it, but we don't want to overstep.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's so interesting what you're saying. Even people who are in that exact line of work as far as being clinicians, and I'm not blaming, we all do it.
Right. Like they see the signs or they see something, maybe you might be off, but no one wants to like approach and say, hey, listen, are you, and so what's the right thing to, what should we do? What should we say if we see these signs? I mean, what do you think needs to change in the department or in society to just break the whole stigma of mental health?
I think it's not being afraid to call that person out, but in a way to where they're not going to clamshell up. If you call them out in front of a group at the kitchen table, as we all know, the kitchen table is like our sanctuary. That's where we fix all the world's problems at that kitchen table. Mm-hmm. Do it off to the side. Is it a simple text message of just, hey man, I know you've been off the past couple of days. What's going on? What's up? What do you need? Something going on at home and everything. And just give them that outlet. They're probably going to be, no, I'm good. But right. A day or two later, hey man, still noticing you're a little off. You sure you're good? Let's go grab coffee, or I know we're not supposed to say it, but let's go grab a drink or something, and, it's building that trust with that person, and it being someone that you trust and everything. I didn't believe it at first that I would need the help. I was always the one giving the help. But as firefighters, we're our own worst enemies too, because we're fixers. We always want to fix the problems. And I think some of the worst calls that we run are the ones where we can't fix the problem. And it's gotten to the point now to where I have people that just simply call me or text me and go, hey, I'm just dealing with this. What do you have for me? And, oh, where do you live? You live in Palm Beach? Hey, here's some clinicians that I can recommend for you. Let me know how it works out for you. And then maybe 2 weeks later, I may send them a quick text message and just be like, hey, just wanted to see how everything worked out. Oh man, you don't know. It was great. Thanks. I appreciate it. All right. And it gets left at that. There has to be that confidentiality and trust level there between the peers and everything, that they know their information isn't going to get out, but also it's spoken about in a lot of mental wellness conversations. It comes down also to our pride. We're too proudful. Right. So, and especially with firemen and with cops, we're finding that with police officers that they're afraid that they're going to lose their gun. If I say that I need help and I go see a therapist, am I going to lose my gun? And that's not the case. And I think we're starting to get this stigma to change to a point, but there's still a lot of work that we have to do.
Mm-hmm. What resources or programs would you recommend for first responders who want to prioritize their mental wellness?
So there's a lot of ones that are out there. And I know it's kind of like there's a lot of people throwing their hat in the game and everything, but I think it's a good thing. I look at it as if, you know, how many different cardiologists are there out in the world to fix your heart or whatever? Now we're getting all these different mental wellness stuff that we can go out there and do. And like I said before, it's something that works for you that may not work for me, hey, now it works for this person. There's all these different websites out there that are coming up and everything. I know I have a buddy that works for BSO that just launched his mental wellness website that I think is going to be a very good resource. It's called Headstrong. He's been through some struggles himself, and we were just talking last night, and he's got the same passion that I do. Put it out there of going, I think I found my calling on that. I want to help people with this struggle, and what do I need to do? So his website Headstrong is going to be out there to where clinicians and different resources are going to be available, and each day is going to have a different theme and topic and everything. So Redline Rescue's out there, which is another one, which you can go on and find clinicians that are kind of versed with first responders. Right here in our own backyard, we have Shatterproof program. That's right there. I do a lot of work with them. I'm very good friends with the coordinator to help people get in and out, or actually into the program. We take pride, especially with our department, that if anyone goes to, we call it sleepaway camp, if they just choose to stay local or go up to Maryland, we actually travel with them. We will walk them to the front door themselves and go get them when they're out. They will never go or come out by themselves. And we want them to know that their journey they're not alone. And the clinician class that I speak of is a class that we teach, that we put clinicians through a 2-day competency class, where we kind of do lecture for 1 day talking about firehouse life, firehouse culture, break it down to as simple as, why is there 3 refrigerators and 2 have locks on them? And we explain to them because everyone wants to steal the ketchup and the coffee creamer. We explain about the kitchen table and how this is, if you're an outsider and you get invited to eat lunch, dinner with us, that you don't turn that down. That's you getting accepted or getting challenged to, you want to be a part of our world. You're going to sit here and break bread with us because this is our most important time. We also explain to them how much of a different our mind works and how sometimes petty we can be. And I use the analogy of, I can throw $1,000 down on that kitchen table, and probably within 3 weeks, it's still going to be there. It's probably going to be in an envelope with my name, with someone, hey, lost and found, posts are going to be set out. I go, but I throw a pack of Skittles down there, there's going to be 1 Skittle left. It's going to be an orange Skittle. And that's just because no one wanted to throw the package away. So
all the things that you're saying, I remember when I would go visit my husband at the station, and I'd be like, why do you have like a padlock on your fridge? And he's like, well, that's C shift, and we don't, the stuff goes missing. And I'm like what? Yeah. Like coffee? I'm like, that's crazy. But like, it's true. You put money out there and it'll be there for weeks, Oh my gosh, how funny.
That's what we teach these clinicians, because we want them to understand, and what we look at is, we want, when a first responder goes to an actual clinician and it gets that part, we want you to be able to use your sessions for the stuff that you are there for, and not explaining what an engine is, what a ladder truck is, what a hydrant is, a Kelly day, or the 24/48 schedule, or this. You might have to explain a little bit of it, but these are ones that we trust. They come out and they ride with us, and we see them as people that are vested in us. So I just don't want to send any of my firefighters to just any Joe Schmo that doesn't.
It makes you guys different in a lot of ways, but a lot of fabulous ways. Yes. I was just thinking, when you guys were talking, it's fascinating and it explains so much, right? So going back to the whole kitchen table, that's old school, right? Even with families and fire. So it still applies to the fire departments to this day. The kitchen table's old school. The conversations there are old school. The respect at the kitchen table, the money on the table, all of that's really old school. What's not old school is mental health. This is still new. And it explains why there's such a struggle and why there's such a stigma. We're getting better, but we're not there yet. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about it like that, there's all these old school qualities and characteristics that kind of embody the fire department specifically, because that's what we know. So that's what we'll talk about. And now it's a shift, isn't it, Andrew? It's a cultural shift that's happening in that realm, in the mental health realm.
I love that. I love that. The support needs to come, like you said, from the heads. And, it's just, we're all in it together at the end of the day. And I feel like we're all trying to just survive. And knowing that we're not alone is huge. And I love that we're all talking about it and making it, this is something that's happening and we need to continue the discussion and, tell our stories. Wow, I can imagine, especially the dogs. I remember Alex was such a dog lover, and I think that's true. I think the animals even coming into play is a great asset. Hmm.
It's those little bits of comfort that can go a long way.
Yes.
Yeah, especially building up the trust factor, right? Among fire. Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. You're breaking in more ways than one. That's
Yes.
for sure. Andrew, thank you so much for doing this with us. We really appreciate your time.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate everything and continue to do what you're doing. You're doing amazing. And, you know, we're all in it together, like I said before. And thank you. Oh, okay. Amazing.
No. Andrew, real quick before we say goodbye, where can people find you if they want to keep up with you and what you're doing? Okay. We'll make sure we'll include it in the caption. Thank you again, Andrew, so much. Take care.
Thank you.